Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Good, good.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I guess we're ready for another one of these exciting shows.
This is at this time here at WBOE. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Always good to hear from the folks down in Chadburn with WVOE, and always good to chat with the folks that are online as well. I hope you all are doing okay. So I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, listeners. You're locked into WVOE 1590 AM, the voice of Ebony, where your health is our heartbeat. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Brown, president and founder of PressureMD Academy, welcoming you to another enriching session of Health Facts, the show where wisdom meets wellness and knowledge is always in season. So, all right. So we got us another session here, another great day. Thank you for all the folks that are listening on WVOE, and thank you for all the folks who are listening online, live online. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate everybody tuning in. It's quite wonderful to know that folks are interested in the information that we're providing, and that we are providing hopefully a pretty good service and some good information to help you be a little healthier, because that's always our goal. So, all right. So what are we going to talk about today? Let's make sure you got this thing set up properly the way it's supposed to. Okay. So today, since it was just Father's Day, we're going to do some father's health advice, and so we're going to cover 7 health issues that every dad needs to know. So, and this is in commemoration for Father's Day. This is in commemoration of all those fathers out there that have that sacrifice, that love families, and are doing the right things. And of course, one of the things I think we talk about it, but I don't think we can talk about it enough. And that is that that a lot of fathers need to make sure they take care of themselves so that they can take care of their family. And so that's what we're working on today is kind of going over some of the things that really addressed that really hit fathers, that really hit men, and making sure that hey, look, these are things you need to look out for. These are things you need in order to take care of your health, and because a healthier father makes a healthier family. And it allows you to do that. What are fathers here for? We're here to provide and protect, right? So we want to be as healthy as possible for that. So, all right. So let's see how we're going to start this out today. Okay. So when we talk about fathers, though, we're not, so of course there's biological fathers. So you're the man that actually makes that baby. But then, there are also a lot of what we call father figures. And then there are also, you got your fathers or your dads, you got stepdads, grandfathers, uncles, mentors, coaches, church leaders, and really just men who sometimes just show up for children and families. Okay. And, this is one of the truths. So yeah, a lot of fathers, a lot of us, I'm a dad as well. So, we'll make sure that our car gets serviced, make sure your car gets serviced, check the tires, make sure the oil is getting changed, make sure the bills are paid, the grass gets cut, maybe fix that leaky faucet, and make sure the family is taken care of. But a lot of us, and yeah, so I'm talking about me too. So a lot of us will do all those things, but then not do the same for ourselves. And so that's just a fact of what we do. And sometimes, and it's like, okay. All right. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right. So sometimes, I'm sorry, we had a little technical difficulty there. For whatever reason, this thing keeps acting up. All right. So a lot of times, when it comes to fathers, we take care of everything else. We don't take care of ourselves. And so, sometimes the stress is silent, sometimes the depression is silent, and sometimes the depression, there's high functioning depression where that person may be going to work every day, but they may be carrying a whole lot of stress and burden on them. And the only thing that we ask them, they're gonna say they're good, and they're gonna keep going about their day. So today we're going to talk about 7 issues that affect people's health, and that are, that unfortunately, are a lot of times that are ignored. And number one, heart and blood pressure is one thing that affects people. Cancer screening, a lot of our screenings in general. We have diabetes, weight, nutrition, kidney disease, mental health, stress, injuries, and one that honestly, got sleep and safety, and one that that kind of is at the end, but I might bring it up to the earlier part, and that is parenting dynamics. Because today, parenting dynamics can really contribute to a lot of stressors for a lot of, and talk about a lot of fathers, like I said, a lot of times, of course you got married fathers, but then a lot of times we have, something these days that might be a little bit different than what we had before. So parenting as a married father might be different than parenting as a single father, and understanding those dynamics and how to navigate that. And while it's I think it's something that's really not spoken about. It is something that, as a clinician and as a dad that I was a single dad, yeah, kind of looking back, realizing that a lot of these other conditions can be triggered, or it can be triggered by, or it might be harder to maintain if you're in these certain dynamics. So, all right, so we're going to get started with some of the good stuff, right? All right, so let's start out with heart disease and high blood pressure. Now, I know, we touched on it. We touch on this a lot, but I just feel like you can't say it too many times. And that is that high blood pressure can be silent, and when it's silent like that and it's untreated, a lot of times it can damage heart, it can damage the brain, it can damage the kidneys, eyes. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you know your blood pressure number. You want to make sure, when you do your blood pressure, that you have the proper size cuff. And if you're prescribed medication, take the medication. It's really hard and really frustrating when we see that, a dad that has, actually been to the doctor, been diagnosed, prescribed medication. And I've had it before where, I get a referral for a dad or guy that has quote unquote uncontrolled blood pressure. They come in and, we go over everything. And at the end of the visit, they're like, well, I just want to let you know, I'm not actually taking that medication. Well, okay, so look, I can't treat. It really makes it difficult to treat this if you're not taking the medication. And that maybe they have some side effect. Hey, I got some swelling, or I felt funny, or hey, my stuff didn't work anymore. But those are things that you can just tell the doc. Not to not take that medication. So we want to make sure that we so that we let the doctor know, because it really is important that you're taking this medication. Okay, so all right, so we got that going on, and like I said, the heart, and like I said, remember, high blood pressure affects so many things. It is really important. So the next issue is that we have cancer screening. Okay, so you want to do your preventive cancer screenings. Why do you want to do preventive cancer screenings? Because a lot of these diseases, especially cancers, you want to catch early when they're actually treatable. They're actually treatable. So, make sure you get your colorectal screenings. And really, you want to start getting that at age 45, or even earlier if you have family history of cancer screenings. So the colorectal screenings, you know what, you might want to make sure you want to get that. The prostate cancer screenings, and so you want to make sure you're getting your prostate, your PSA checked. So one of the things about the prostate cancer screenings, because for years we used to use two things: a PSA, prostate specific antigen, and we used to use what is called a digital rectal exam. Nowadays, we really don't do the digital rectal exam for the screening part. We just do the blood test, which is the PSA. So you don't have to worry about it, because a lot of men didn't do this because they were concerned that they were going to have to do the the rectal, the digital rectal exam. So nowadays you just get the blood test, and then if, of course, if that becomes abnormal, then as part of the workup, the digital rectal exam might be there, but it's not part of the screening exam. So that's no longer a reason for you to hesitate getting your your prostate screening exams done. So that's another thing that we want to make sure that we're getting those preventive tests done. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, so that's what we want to do there. Then we want to make sure that the other thing that we want to do as fathers and as men, and this is a big one. So you got diabetes, weight, nutrition, and we put them all together because they really, really overlap. It's not really one item. It's multiple things going on in there. So for the diabetes, you want to ask for your A1C. You should be getting your A1C. Now, what is the A1C? A1C gives you what your blood sugar has been over the last 3 months. It's basically a screening test. It's kind of telling you how you've been doing for about 3 months. And so you want to get that because, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, of course, it can be used to help you to help diagnose diabetes. But one thing that's not talked about a lot, it can also be used to tell you whether or not you have pre-diabetes. What's pre-diabetes? So that is a step between a normal blood sugar or normal blood sugar regulation and actually having full-blown diabetes. There's a space in there called pre-diabetes. And if you have pre-diabetes, you can actually change your life. A lot of people can change their lifestyle and get rid of the pre-diabetes and take their blood sugar and metabolic, the metabolic metabolism that's going on inside your bodies. You can take that back to normal. And I've had a couple of patients, a couple of clients that we've actually coached, and I've actually provided healthcare where they came in and they had pre-diabetes. They were on the borderline of being diagnosed with diabetes. And once they understood that the things that they were doing or not doing, like when it comes to exercise, they were able to change those things around and actually get that A1C back down to a normal number. And at that point in time, hey, you're no longer pre-diabetic. You still need to be monitored, and you still need to maintain that lifestyle that you picked up, so some of these guys, of course, they're eating out a lot, eating fast food, they're not exercising, and they reversed all that, and they basically reversed that pre-diabetes. And so a lot of times this comes with, of course, the pre-diabetes comes with increased weight, and it comes with poor nutrition. And by reversing those, that person was able to get rid of their pre-diabetic status. So, ask for that A1C. And when you get the number, ask what it means. Make sure, hey, am I pre-diabetic? And then, make sure, from a weight standpoint, watch your weight. You don't have to get it every day, but like once a week, once a month, to see where your weight is trending. Make sure it's not catching up on it, especially for those guys that are over 40. I tell you, 40 seems to be that magic number where, our body goes through changes. I mean, as we get older, as we're blessed with the gift of age, that age comes with some different responsibilities. And that's what we have to do, is that we have to monitor things a little bit differently. We have to watch our, like I said, we have to watch that waistline. You have to watch that gut, because like I said, drinking beer in your 20s and drinking beer in your 40s are two different things. Is from for whatever reason, from your body standpoint, seems to be two different things. So that's where you get these things called a beer gut, which we've used them as a euphemism, but it really is a serious concern, because that can indicate a lot of times that beer gut is coming with insulin resistance, and this is what is leading you to go into that pre-diabetic phase, and if it's left long enough, will become full-blown diabetes. So make sure you take care of that. So watch the weight, cut the sugar drinks out. There's no reason for you to be drinking the sodas and things that have extra sugar involved. It's empty calories. It doesn't benefit you at all, and it just adds to the number of calories. And when you consistently consume more, and when you consistently consume more calories than you burn, then that is what adds to the weight that you have. So you want to cut out these extra empty calories that really just don't do anything. Remember, water is great. Okay. And then use the plate method. So kind of watch your plate, and make sure that you're having plenty of fiber in there, because that's filling but doesn't have a lot of calories in it. And then the other thing is this: make sure you walk. Walking is huge. Take a walk after your meal. Like I said, sometimes it can help you wake up a little bit, and also help you burn off a few calories. So you want to do that as well. All right. So, all right. Now, of course, I'm a kidney doctor, so of course we got to talk about the kidneys, right? We got to talk about the kidneys. We can't have a conversation without bringing the kidneys involved. So kidney disease, you want to make sure you're preserving that kidney function. Kidney disease a lot of times is silent. For most people, it's going to be a silent disease. The main risk factors are going to be diabetes, high blood pressure, though the number one and number two reasons for people having chronic kidney disease. So the things you want to look for, you want to make sure you look for that eGFR. That's that kidney number. We talked about that before, and we will be talking about it again. So you want to look out for that kidney number, and then the UACR, and that's the albumin. You want to ask about the albumin in your urine. And so that's a special screening test that you have to do for this. So, and then you want to protect your kidneys by controlling blood pressure, controlling your sugar, eating well, exercise, maintaining good weight. And so those are ways that you can also protect how well the kidneys are protect and preserve your kidney function. All right. Mental health and stress. Mental health and stress. Mental health and stress is a major issue for a lot of fathers, a lot of men. And unfortunately, stress can affect the body. When you're stressed, you release hormones that can negatively affect the body. So you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on this. Depression in men can look like anger. It can look like isolation. It could be a lot of different ways that depression actually manifests itself in men and in fathers. Now there's also another hidden epidemic, and that is of people self-harm, basically suicide. That's something that seems to be rising. And so, what you want to do is, if you know somebody that seems to be at risk of harming themselves or others, you want to call or text 988 for crisis support. So you want to make sure you're doing that. If you see somebody, or if you feel it yourself, just call that number and see if you can get some support. If you need to, you can call 911 as well. You want to make sure you get support for what's going on there. And then asking for help is strength. Remember, we can ask for help. We can go get counseling. You go get, medical psychiatrists, those different folks, in order to make sure that your mental health is taken care of. And then the other thing is this: take care of yourself. Have some self-care days. Take a day where you just kind of relax. Matter of fact, if especially for all the Christian men out there, we're commanded to rest on the Sabbath. So if we stick to, so if you're a Christian man and you stick to the resting on the Sabbath, that gives you a little chance to do a reset. And to kind of get your body and mind a break, and to get a lot of the stresses off of you. Okay. So that's another thing that's really important. And then sleep. So sleep is another health condition that is unfortunately not talked about as much, but it is really important. Um, Chronic poor sleep also can be very harmful to one's body. It's a lot more harmful than people think. One of the big things is sleep apnea, and this is something that a lot of men have. Don't really, you don't really think about it, but it can be harmful. It can lead to high blood pressure, or is associated with high blood pressure. It can actually, if it's bad enough, it can actually lead to heart disease. And so like I said, if you chronically, stop sleeping, stop breathing when you're sleeping, it actually can lead to heart disease. So it's something you want to keep an eye on. Make sure that you're getting that screened if needed. Get your sleep study and make sure that's being taken care of, because it really is important. And then also from sleep, you want to make sure you're getting that 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night, because chronic sleep deprivation is also harmful to a body. Remember, sleep is when we kind of restore and reset our bodies. It's actually not an inactive period of time. Our bodies, kind of do a reset whenever we go to sleep. So it's not something that should be neglected. Okay. All right. And then safety. So safety is one that all dads need to take seriously. We as men don't really believe in safety. We think that, I think that's not macho. But one of the things that I use to explain this to folks is to envision. Okay, because we're really good at envisioning everything going well, but we need to envision what happens if you fall, because you didn't properly set the ladder, and now you fall and you break an ankle, or you strain a knee or something of that nature, or break a leg. You know, think about the cost of going to the ER, a hospital stay, and surgery and recuperation, and compare that to the cost of getting a good ladder, taking an extra moment to make sure everything's solid, and in order to prevent a fall. You know, if you need to go do, maybe chop wood, or use a chainsaw, making sure you got the protective goggles, the gloves, because getting something, hey, I, it's all well and good until something, falls off and it's in your eye, and now you're complaining about the ER visit, the cost of the ER visit, the wait and the cost of the ER visit, because you messed around and you got something stuck in your eye, when a pair of goggles would have easily prevented this. So this is one of the ways I try to relate this to guys. Honestly, sometimes this is the way I have to relate it to myself. This is how I have to relate it to myself. I go back, get some gloves, go back, get some goggles. Make sure you get boots. Depending on what type of work you're doing, make sure you get boots, because these injuries, guys don't usually talk about the injuries, but if you ever talk to a person that works in the ER, he or she will tell you about the number of times they see people coming in with completely preventable injuries. And now folks are, like, you got to go to the ER, get your eyes washed out. Well, that eye doctor ain't coming in for cheap. Okay. That the ER is not, it's open 24 hours. They got to pay those folks that are in there, the doctors, the nurses, the janitors. Okay, so they paying folks to keep these things clean. So if you go in there, you're going to pay. So just remember that when you're trying to do something and someone says, "Hey, why don't you put some glasses on, or some gloves, or whatever else you need to do, or why don't you use a proper ladder, or however it needs to go, or whatever needs to be done." So make sure you're keeping yourself safe, and not only that, I mean, so you want to make sure that you're using, that if make sure you're using seat belts. If you got firearms in the house, make sure you're locking those up safely, especially if you have children around. Medications, the same thing, especially if you have children or teens. Like if you got some of these medications, remember that some of these young teens grab pills and have pill parties. So make sure you're locking that stuff up properly. And then another one is learning CPR, because if something, someone has an arrest or something around you, you want to be able to be able to help to resuscitate. You want to be a part of the resuscitation team whenever that goes on. So make sure that you learn some of these basic things and you take the extra care to prevent injuries. Because an out, my granddad used to say, and he was famous for saying, I know this quote is also there's another person quote, but my granddad is the one that introduced it to me, and that is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I know my granddad did not make this statement up, but he's the one that talked to me. So an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's all day, every day. Okay. Okay. The last but not least, and this is parenting conflict. Okay. And the reason I intentionally added this into the health is because this can affect I really think it affects how you view yourself. And then it also affects, how you view yourself, how you view your family, how you view, the person that you're parenting with. um, it affects a lot of that, and it can affect, your blood pressure, your mental health, the whole 9 yards. You know, we just live in a different era where, like I said, there's a lot more single parenting going on. There's a lot more divorces going on, and even within the family itself, the dynamics are a lot different than they were back in the day. And so these conflicts affect, but we have to remember these conflicts, while they've always been there, they're manifesting themselves in different ways. These conflicts can they affect both the parent and the children. So they affect the mom, dad, and the children. And, whether it's, stepmom, stepdad, however that situation is going on. So, some of the things you can do to help mitigate this and to help make sure that you're having a healthy um, parenting relationship is you have to look at it from a different perspective. A lot of times these parenting conflicts come, they're really power dynamic. A lot of times they're really power dynamics. So, one parent wants more control either over the children or more likely over the other parent. And they use the children in order to as a middle piece. And maybe the other parent doesn't understand that, but like I said, they're either arguing or negatively interacting with the other parent, or negatively interacting with the children. And this stuff has a tendency to feed back on itself, because if you start with this conflict, guess what? Now you're getting, maybe whatever your expectation, maybe you had an expectation of a nice peaceful family. Now that's being disrupted. You're getting stressed, you're getting frustrated. Guess what happens when we get stressed and frustrated? All those hormones that we talked about before start contributing, to your blood pressure. They start contributing to your mental health. Maybe you didn't get the outcome. Maybe you took it to court and you didn't get the outcome that you wanted. Some people's response to that is to get depressed. Some of us and that depression may manifest itself as anger. So when it comes to parenting conflict, you want to make sure you take some steps to try to parent in a healthier manner. And some of the things that you can do to do this is, number one, keep the children out of the adult disputes. I think that's probably one of the big ones. Is, like, yes, you and the other parent are having conflict or having arguments. Don't bring the children into this, because later on that stuff circles back around. Okay, you want to use respectful communication. Even though they may have said some off stuff, you want to take a deep breath. This is where we're going to do you might learn some meditation, some prayers. And like I said, Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus, help me guide my tongue before I respond to this. And you want to make sure you're communicating respectfully. If you can't verbally, or it's too tough to communicate verbally, you might want to do text messages or emails. One tactic, and this is for all the dads out here. So one tactic you could do, especially if it's if you've decided to communicate by text or email, you can actually, there's AI. This is going to be a good use of AI. You can actually take whatever that is, go to an AI. Of course, everybody knows Chat GPT, so you use Chat GPT. Say, hey, I'm a single parent. I'm having conflict with the mother. I don't like the way she talks to me, and this is an example. And so you could, so take a sample of what they sent to you and ask it to help you craft a response. So, she might be saying, you ain't done nothing for me ever. You don't do nothing for the kids. I ain't gonna let you see them on Saturday. Da 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 da. Well, you put that, take that, put it in the AI as a what they call a prompt, and then say, hey, can you help me craft a respectful uh, text message back to my child's mother. I have, and then you could let it know things like, do you have shared custody, what the custody arrangements are, and things of nature. And it can help you to craft a respectful response back. And so that can help to diffuse, situations that are tense. Because a lot of times when both myself and like I said, when you talk a lot of guys, that communication back and forth is a way that one parent is able to what the word is, gaslight the other parent. But so you want to make sure, like I said, I'm talking to dads out here now, so you want so as a dad, you're going to maintain a respectful relationship so that you can continue to parent effectively with the other parent, and protect your children, protect your rights as much as possible. So you want to do this. So use respectful communication. Use, like I said, you need to use the AI system to help you craft some of these messages. Do so. And if like I said, and if it's a conversation, you're on the phone, it's getting heated, you may have to, you may have to mute it, or take a little deep breath, and just put a pause on it if you feel yourself, going there. And then the other thing is this: consider mediation or counseling. I know at least, in some of these counties, you know, the the courts actually have mediation services available, and I think it's probably one of the first things that any parents that are having difficulty should engage with the mediators first. Yes, you can talk to your own lawyers or whatever, but engage the mediation first, because the mediators have a very different framework than what happens when you go into the court. When you go into the court, it's one person trying to, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's just the nature of that. But you do mediation, and mediation is trying to nuance, this situation a little bit, a little bit better, a little bit more. And then you could take whatever you all come up with, then you could take it to the court, and that can help to set up, what your legal responsibilities and abilities are. So you want to make sure you take into that. And another thing about parenting conflict is this, and that is, when you're, whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing, ask yourself, am I doing this? Am I doing this in the best interest of my child? Okay. And is my child safe? And that means, like I said, oh, she took the kid for the weekend, it's probably my kid. Okay, is your child safe? Okay. It's not the best interest, but is it in my best interest to go over there and what is it, wild out, or whatever the words are that they use these days? And the answer may be, hey, the child is safe, the child is not in danger. We'll deal with this, down the road, maybe in court or something of that nature. So this is some ways to kind of address parenting conflict. Now, I'm actually going over out of time. I might bring this up a little later on, because I think the parenting thing is huge in terms of our health. But just wanted to bring that piece up. Okay. All right. So these are just some things that I really wanted to talk about, in honor, I guess in honor or in memory of Father's Day, making sure that the fathers are going to be, as many fathers as possible are going to be here for another Father's Day. I want you to enjoy as many Father's Day as possible. I want you to take care of your health. I want you to be there, physically, mentally, and spiritually as well, for your families for as long as possible. And part of that is, is understanding your role and understanding your importance. Even though, like I said, these situations where it's a single, or I can't even say single. Sometimes even the married parents, yes, they may be trying to make you feel like you're unimportant, but you are important. You are absolutely critical for your family and for your neighborhood. There's a lot more people paying attention to you and depending upon you than you may be told, or we like to say. So make sure you're taking care of that. Okay. All right. So what you can do today is we're going to wrap this up so we can get on. So number one, book your an exam. If you have not had a physical exam within the last year, make sure you book that. So you want to do that. Number two, make sure you're doing a daily. Try and get in a daily walk, even if it's very brief, just to clear your mind and get a little exercise in there. And then, like I said, make sure you're checking your blood pressure and weight. Make sure you're checking those on a somewhat frequent basis, even if it's just going to the, sometimes you go to these places that will have a blood pressure machine in there, and you can put your arm in there and just check that. Make sure you're getting your lab, get your lab, make sure you understand what's going on there, and and repair time. And if you're having issues with, again, with the parenting thing, if you're having issues, repair those ties. At least get it to the point that you can function together for the good of the children, and it's going to make you feel better over the long haul. And I know it's kind of a weird thing to throw in here with this, but it is going to make you feel better over the long haul. Okay. All right. All right. So, I think, these are some self-reflection questions. I'm actually going to go ahead and wrap it up. So I'm Dr. Christopher Brown, kidney and high blood pressure specialist. And, like I said, thank you for tuning in for another episode of Health Facts. Remember, this is all information. So it's education, entertainment for you. And I'm a doctor, not your doctor, unless you sign up. And so make sure, like I said, hopefully this has been beneficial. I want to thank everybody that's listening on WVOE, everybody that's tuning in online, everybody that's watching the recording. I want to thank all of you for this attention. Please feel free to give us some feedback, and if you like, follow, and share as much as you can. So thank you very much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate this. You all have a great rest of the day, and we will see you again next week.
And ladies and gentlemen,